Tensions remain high as the nation is still deeply divided over Trump's election. For the third straight night, anti-Trump protesters have taken to the streets, while Trump voters are speaking out in support of the new president-elect. And ABC's Gloria Riviera is in Washington for us this morning. Hi, Gloria.
Hi there, Paula. Good morning. That's right. Overnight, heated anti-Trump protests in more than a dozen major cities across the country. Initially, in a tweet, President-elect Donald Trump dismissed them, but some activists are now saying they hope this is just the beginning of the nation's strongest protests since Occupy Wall Street.
What?
Overnight, protesters across the country denouncing Donald Trump's victory. Violent demonstrators seen here in Portland threatened with tear gas after allegedly throwing burning objects at officers.
No, it's being shot in the air.
Investigators saying one protester was hurt in a shooting that broke out during the protest. The injuries not life-threatening. In other cities, Philadelphia, Dallas, and Miami, thousands marching mainly peacefully against the president-elect. Despite Trump's losing of the popular vote to Hillary Clinton, his supporters, who propelled him to win 29 states, say they staged their protests in the ballot box.
Give us somebody who's not a politician. Give us somebody who is successful, but one of the people.
I think he's going to surround himself with the right people.
We know that there's going to be a change now in America.
Electing Trump in part to voice frustration and a sense of marginalization for the last several years.
So many things rush through my head. My children's future, feeling safe and secure.
It's the silent majority Trump and his campaign repeatedly predicted.
And we're going to Washington, D.C. to drain the swamp.
Tensions also spilling into schools across the country. The FBI now investigating an incident targeting black students at the University of Pennsylvania. According to school officials, students were anonymously added to a group chat featuring racist slurs, threats, and photos depicting lynchings.
People started to get more confidence, and now they see that someone's in charge that shares the same morals. That is they feel confident with projecting that.
In the protests in Portland, police say more than $1 million in damage has been done. There are more protests planned for today in New York and Los Angeles, and reports of plans for a significant protest here in Washington, D.C. on January 20th, when President-elect Donald Trump takes the oath of office. Dan, Paula.
It's a tense time in America. Gloria, thank you. Let's get more on all of this now with ABC News political commentator Cokie Roberts, who's also in Washington this morning. Cokie, good morning. I want to start. Good morning. I want to start with this Obamacare news. I guess the question is, if Trump is willing to apparently shift his resistance on Obamacare, which he talked about incessantly on the stump, what does this say about his intention to follow through on his other big campaign promises, like building the wall?
I think that he is fairly frank about the fact that some of that was for campaign purposes. And he says he's concentrating on taxes and jobs, and of course that makes a lot of sense because that's what people really care about. And what he says about Obamacare is he'll keep the parts that are really popular, being able to get insurance even if you have a pre-existing condition, keeping young people on parents' coverage till they're 26. Those are very popular measures. Now, how he's going to pay for that without having the rest of the structure of the bill is an interesting question. Same thing about the wall. You know, we already have a good bit of wall along our southern border. Does he really need to spend money to build the rest of it? And is Mexico going to do it? Of course not. But I think he's going to pick and choose and do the things that he thinks the voters really care about in their day-to-day lives, as opposed to these big campaign statements.
Cokie, we talk about all these positions, 4,000 positions that Trump needs to fill. 1,100 need Senate approval, including Defense Secretary. Now, the Washington Post reporting this morning that he's eyeing New Hampshire former Senator now, Kelly Ayotte, who's publicly criticized him, didn't vote for him. Is this a sign that he's willing to surround himself with people that he doesn't always agree with?
Well, we'll see. Kelly Ayotte is a real loss to the Senate, in fact. She's very practical-minded, a woman who's able to go across party lines and get things done. And the fact that he is thinking about her does show you that there might be outreach beyond his inner circle. That circle was awfully small. And as you saw in Mary's piece, you know, his children have been so much a part of it. He's got to get beyond that just immediate group. But so whether that includes people who have disagreed with him, we'll say, but you know, look, he sat down with the president the other day. The two of them could not have been harsher about each other, and you know, came out saying glowing things. So maybe we're seeing a more subdued presidential Donald Trump. That's the big hope.
Not much time has elapsed, though, and so
Right.
we'll see how things progress. But we are, as Gloria Riviera pointed out, we're really at this contentious point in American history. And I'm just curious, given your experience covering politics, what would you say to the Americans who are pinning so much hope on this new president? And also, what would you say to the people who are fearing so much anger and fear and dread about this new president?
Well, starting there, first of all, you wonder how many of these protesters voted. But the fact is that he should do something to speak to the people who are angry and frightened, particularly to the immigrant communities, the Muslim community, and these horrific stories we're hearing about kids being harassed in schools. He needs to actually stand up publicly and say something, make some kind of gesture to make it clear that he disapproves of this and is reaching out to the people who are frightened in the country. In terms of the people who are excited, I think they'll stay excited for a while. Just the notion that they did it, they won, they beat the odds, they told all the smart Washington types that we were all wrong, and so I think that they'll stay a sense of excitement. And if he can do something quick, like an infrastructure bill where people really go to work right away, building highways and airports and such, that will make people happy.
Yeah, roughly 68 days until the inauguration. Koki, thanks for the insight as usual.
Thanks, Cook.